Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Artist Show. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Artist. I hope you have had a great week. I hope you're excited to learn. This is actually going to be an entire presentation on how to build the immune system and how to destroy it. We're going to give you 3 easy ways in which you can destroy your immune system, suppress its ability to be able to fight infections and pathogens in a world that they continue to tell you in the media. There's a bunch of scary germs coming from animals of all kinds, coughing bats, sneezing snakes, seafood in markets all over the world. And now there's birds coughing on cows and porpoises, making people sick, and they call it the bird flu. Well, this is going to be a presentation on how to build the immune system, 3 easy ways that I'm going to tell you to, and then 3 simple ways to keep it suppressed so that you're more susceptible to everything that they tell you. Well, hang on. I hope you're excited. This is going to be an entire presentation. I've got PowerPoint presentations. This is going to be you and me for the next 44 minutes or so. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the Dr. Artist Show. I'm your host, Dr. Brian Artist, and this entire show is going to be brought to you by 3 things. A product called Foreign Protein Cleanse that I developed along with Global Healing last year. And then it's also going to be brought to you by Doc's Viral Defense, a product I introduced about 4 years ago. And then we're also going to be sponsored today by magnesium, which is a product in a complex of 3 different forms of magnesium that I carry at the Dr. Artist Show. You'll find out here very shortly. If you've been a follow of ours for a while, you'll know why these 3 things are actually sponsoring this presentation. All right, this is going to be a PowerPoint presentation teaching you 3 ways to build the immune system. We're going to start with 3 ways to lower your immune system or even turn it off or destroy it so that you can get sick as often as you want. This show is not for victims. If you are a victim and you like being sick because it gets you attention, this presentation is for you. Because if you like attention and you like being sick, the first half of this presentation is all about how to do that. So I'm going to dive into 3 basic ways you can be sick all the time, make it more plausible and possible for you to catch anything and everything on Earth. Any poison, any virus, bacteria, fungus, parasite. I'm going to show you how you can do it. So I'm going to be sharing my slides here. Let's turn it on. Let's be ready to go. All right, so How to Build and Destroy Your Immune System by Dr. Brian Artist. Let's dive right into it. This is the first discussion we're going to start with. If you want to destroy somebody's immune system, simply add sugar to it. You'll see the top of this research paper from 2022 during the COVID-19 pandemic. It is titled Excessive Intake of Sugar, an Accomplice of Inflammation. If you want to increase inflammation and pain and you're suffering and your exposure to pathogens to become sick, you want sniffles, allergy symptoms, pain in your body, make sure you're eating sugar. All right, now as we go along, I want you to follow along with these research studies and what these research scientists in the world of medicine are teaching us about this food called sugar. All right, so very first sentence, before we get to the blue highlighted part of this one, I just want to read the first sentence with everybody. High sugar intake has long been recognized as a potential environmental risk factor for increased incidence of many non-communicable diseases, including obesity, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, and type 2 diabetes. And they're going to start talking about dietary sugars. Just know sugar, it is known, refined sugar is a complication to obesity, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, and type 2 diabetes. If you don't know what metabolic syndrome is, you probably know what the other ones are. Metabolic syndrome is a compilation of 5 different scenarios if somebody has it, and a lot of Americans do. In fact, over half of Americans have it. So over half of Americans have metabolic syndrome. This includes high cholesterol, high triglycerides, high blood sugar, low HDL cholesterol, and then a large waistline. That's the majority of Americans. All right, so let's get into the blue part of the highlighted segment. As I go along, you're going to just follow along with the blue highlighted segments on the screen, the sections I want you to pay attention to. The consumption of high sugar beverages and processed foods has increased significantly over the past 30 years. Here we summarize the effects of consuming high levels of dietary hexose on rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, psoriasis, inflammatory bowel disease, and low-grade chronic inflammation. Based on these reported findings, we emphasize that dietary sugars and mixed processed foods may be a key factor leading to the occurrence and aggravation of inflammation. We concluded that by revealing the roles that excessive intake of hexose being sugar, has on the regulation of human inflammatory diseases, are fundamental questions that need to be solved urgently. Moreover, close attention should also be paid to the combination of high glucose mediated immune imbalance and tumor development. You got cancer, you better not be eating sugar, and strive to make substantial contributions to reverse tumor immune escape. So, if there's something in a tumor and it escapes, they call that metastatic cancer. I do want to explain something though. Anybody out there who actually believes they have a tumor or have been told they have a tumor or a cyst and it needs to be biopsied. A biopsy is punching a hole with a needle through a tumor that is enclosed in scar tissue. The moment you punch a hole in it, whatever's in there is getting out. This is the reason why so many people who do a mammogram are told they found some kind of signature on this x-ray called a mammogram. They're then recommended to go to an oncologist. The oncologist will do a biopsy. They'll stick a needle inside of that cyst or tumor that they believe it is to get a piece of it out to be examined. The moment they punch a hole in that, it's now metastatic. It's going everywhere. This is why soon after being diagnosed with breast cancer with a biopsy, why it is so common that it metastasizes within 6 months to the lymph nodes around your armpits, to the other breast, and all over the body. Biopsies, the last statement in this, they're talking about sugar reversing tumor immune escape. They're actually saying if you eat sugar, it increases the ability of this to escape this tumor reaction. This is metastasis. Metastasizing. We don't want cancer spreading through the body, but sugar does that. It even increases this. So to reduce sugar intake would also prevent metastasizing of cancers. This is another article in 2022 titled The Burden of Carbohydrates in Health and Disease. In the summary at the top, you'll read the abusive consumption of refined, simple, and low-quality carbohydrates has a direct implication on the physical and mental pathophysiology. Conclusion. Evidence suggests that carbohydrates, especially fiber, are beneficial for the well-being and growth of gut microorganisms, and consequently, for the host, the person in this symbiotic relationship producing microbial alterations, a negative impact and effect on mental health and different organic systems. In addition, sugar we're talking about in carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are sugars. In addition, evidence suggests a negative impact of simple carbohydrates and refined carbohydrates on mood categories, including alertness and tiredness, reinforcing a vicious circle. Regarding physical health, sugar intake can affect the development and prognosis of metabolic disease, as an uncontrolled intake of refined carbohydrates puts the individual at risk of developing metabolic syndrome and subsequently developing metabolic disease. I'll review it again. Metabolic disorder is increase in cholesterol, increase in triglycerides, decreasing in good cholesterol, increasing of blood sugar, and increasing of your waistline is how they describe that. Carbs, they write in this article, high blood sugar suppresses our natural immune system, says Lisa Young, PhD. Refined carbs like sugar is sabotaging your health are the highlights of this article. Sugar and the mosaic of autoimmunity. This is an article from 2019, right before the pandemic. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and tell you a statistic I learned years ago in a book. In the year 1905, the average American consumed a total of 5 pounds of sugar in a given year. By the year 2000, Americans were consuming over 250 pounds a year of sugar. So if you want to see where disease is coming from and immune suppression comes from, inflammation comes from, it is because of the exponential increase in the amount of sugars we are consuming every single day. Even if you believe in evolution, the human body would not evolve in 100 years to be able to manage the amount of inflammatory sugar we have consumed over the last 100 years. That's not how quick evolution even happens. Our human bodies have not evolved to handle the amount of sugar we are consuming. 1905 was 5 pounds of sugar in a year. Year 2000, you're up to 250 is the average pounds of sugar every day. Most consumed by sodas and beverages. So please, I've said for 20 years now, my biggest concern with any foods contributing to weight gain, obesity, and disease would be sodas, Cokes, Pepsis, you name it, whatever it is. The more sodas you drink, the more carbonated drinks you drink, the more sugar containing sports drink you drink, the more likelihood you're going to develop disease. All right, so in 2019, in the American Journal of Case Reports, this is a titled article, Sugar in the Mosaic of Autoimmunity. In this report, a 66-year-old man had the onset of gonorrheitis and anesthesis and worsening of these symptoms. 3 months later, were associated with an excess intake of desserts. I just want you to understand any word in a disease that ends with itis means there's inflammation and pain. So no matter, even if you know what these terms mean, these people have inflammation and pain all over their body. This guy does. 2 weeks after starting a strict avoidance of sugar containing nutrients and beverage, symptoms disappeared, not reduced. The symptoms completely disappeared. During the next 6 months, on 3 occasions, the exceptional consumption of a dessert was followed by a mild and transient reoccurrence of the symptoms. So this guy's diagnosis of gonorrheitis and enthesitis, whatever those are, I just want you to know that within 2 weeks of avoiding all sugar, all of his symptoms disappeared. When he ate any sugar over the next 6 months, he would see a mild increase in his symptoms, and it would last for several days. The conclusions were the repeatedly observed reoccurrence of anesthesis arthritis symptoms following sugar intake and its disappearance following avoidance of sugar represents an extreme example of a link between metabolism and local inflammation in the reported individual. The rapid absorption of the monosaccharides, glucose, and fructose from the intestine, where they derive from hydrolysis of the disaccharide sucrose, which is sugar, might lead to an overactivation of mTOR, which is a inflammatory marker that even is indicative in cancer, if not counterbalanced by their mTOR interfering mechanisms. So just know, if you've got arthritis and you eat sugar, it's going to create more sugar. If you avoid sugar for 2 weeks, here's an example of a 66-year-old totally curing himself of all of his pain and misery by avoiding sugar for 2 weeks and beverages that contain sugar. This is an article titled Prednisone. What are 12 things you should know? Now, the first thing I'm describing is how the immune system is destroyed in 3 ways. So the first way is by consuming a lot of sugar. Sugar. All right. So now what we're going to dive into is what's the second way that we can destroy the immune system? The second way is to take steroid drugs every day called prednisone, for example. And I talked about this during the pandemic. I told many, many people the reason why elderly people were so succumbing to COVID-19's bioweapon is because the majority of all elderly people are on daily doses of prednisone. All right, so here's an article in 2023, just last year, written by Carmen Pope or reviewed by her. Prednisone, what are 12 things you should know? I want to read the bottom part of the screen that is not highlighted. Prednisone first came onto the market over 60 years ago and is still going strong. But did you know that this common drug used for a variety of different conditions also has some pretty serious side effects as well? Well, I'm about to show you some. Prednisone is a corticosteroid, often called a steroid for short. These types of steroids are different from the anabolic steroids misused by bodybuilders or athletes wishing to gain a competitive edge. Well, I just want y'all to know it is not being misused by bodybuilders. It's actually being correctly used. It will build muscle. And that is exactly what bodybuilders and athletes want. So when they say anabolic steroids are misused, actually they're being correctly used to achieve their goal, which is to build lots of muscle mass. Corticosteroids come in 2 types, glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. Prednisone is a glucocorticoid. Gluco means sugar. Glucocorticoids have a powerful anti-inflammatory effect and mimic cortisol, a hormone that is released by our adrenal glands in response to inflammation and stress. Prednisone controls inflammation by suppressing our immune system and is 4 times more potent than cortisol at decreasing inflammation. Pay attention. However, prolonged use can cause immunosuppression, muscle wasting, bone changes, fluid shifts, and personality changes. Did you know that prednisone causes muscle wasting, means it's destroying your muscle, causes bone thinning, which is osteoporosis and osteopenia, causes fluid shifts, which means your body's retaining water and you're going to be prescribed diuretics in the future to lower your blood pressure and make you pee, and it causes personality changes. For these reasons, prednisone is usually only prescribed short term. The problem is, I know millions of Americans that are on this long term.